Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today we're taking a look at the new DC Collectibles Arkham Origins Batman figure. Now this line of Arkham Origins figures from DC Collectibles has just started to hit comic book shops and online e-tailers. It's a series of 4 figures that includes Batman, the Joker, Bane, and Black Mask. And today we're going to take a look at the Batman figure, but we'll be looking at all 4 figures over the course of the next few days. Now the packaging for this line is different from your standard DC Collectibles figures, but it is pretty similar, I believe, to what we've seen with the previous Batman video game figures. These figures are based on the new video game Batman Arkham Origins, which just recently hit shelves. You've got clear blister packaging with the Batman logo at the top, and then down at the bottom you've got the name of the figure and the Arkham Origins name. The figure's clearly displayed in the packaging so you can see what you're getting. Now I will note, and when we look at this figure later, that the Bane figure actually comes in a different style of packaging. It actually comes in box packaging. It's a little bigger scale figure. And again, we'll be reviewing that figure in the next day or so. But on the back for the Batman figure and the same for the Black Mask and Joker, you've got pretty much the same thing on the back. There's a little brief bio about the game at the top, and then you've got some thumbnail images for all 4 figures in this series. And then underneath that it says that the figures are sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. This is, as mentioned before, this is basically based on the new Batman Arkham's Origin video game and the costume that Batman wears in that video game, which is very similar looking to the costume that he wore in the previous Arkham video games. You've got basically an armorish type costume with light and dark grays. You've got an almost black kind of metallic paint used on the boots and the gloves. The cowl is also the same kind of dark black, and they used a soft rubber material for the cape, which is sculpted on so you can't remove it. His utility belt on this particular figure is a lighter gray, whereas on like the Arkham City figure it's yellow. And then he's even got some nice details sculpted on the back of the figure underneath the cape, which is nice. An overall very nice and detailed figure. Now, and we'll go into this in more detail, but I am happy to say that this figure is much more articulated than a normal DC Collectibles figure. Like with the Arkham City Batman that they released not too long ago, this one they went the extra mile on the articulation. So he's got some really nice movements and posability, which again we'll go over in just a little bit. Now, if you caught our review the other day of Mattel's version of this character, the Arkham Origins Batman, you'll see that the Mattel figure uses much more darker colors, darker grays and solid blacks. So I think the DC Collectibles one is actually a little bit more accurate to the game. I think it is, these lighter shades of gray and such are what you actually see in the video game. The Mattel one seems to be a little bit more like maybe what you would see in the movies or comics. I haven't played the game itself, I've only seen the trailers and such, but it seems to me that the lighter grays are what you actually see in the game. So I think the DC Collectibles one is a little more accurate as far as the paint detailing and everything. This figure also is not as bulky as the Mattel one, especially in the legs area. Still a little bit bulky because again he's wearing more of an armor type costume than just a straight, spandex or something. But definitely not as bulky looking as the Mattel one. The DC Collectibles figures are also in a 7-inch scale as opposed to the 6-inch scale that the Mattel figures are in. Now here he is next to the DC Collectibles Batman Arkham City figure, which was based on the Arkham City video game. So you can see very similar looking. Not the Arkham Origins costume is a little more armor looking, a little more bulky. But since the Arkham Origins video game is supposed to take place before the Arkham City video game, it kind of makes sense that the costume would get more streamlined as time went along. So I think that's kind of cool that the Origins figure, even though it's a newer figure, the costume looks a little more dated than the Arkham City figure. But you'll see they both have good articulation, which is really nice. Now, unfortunately, all the figures in this line don't share the same amount of articulation. Basically, it's just Batman that got the extra articulation added to it, unfortunately. So the figure stands, including the ears, stands just over 7 inches tall. And here he is next to the Arkham City Nightwing. I don't think Nightwing appears in the new Origins video game, but you'll see that the figures do go together pretty good. So if you want to use your Arkham Origins and Arkham City figures from DC Collectibles, they match up pretty good. Now here he is next to Mattel's Deathstroke figure. Again, because Mattel's figures are in a 6-inch scale, and the DC Collectibles are 7-inch, Deathstroke's a little bit shorter. DC Collectibles is coming out with a Arkham Origins Deathstroke soon, but it doesn't look too bad, and especially when you're putting them in fighting poses and stuff, the figures don't look too bad together. Now, as far as articulation goes, as I've mentioned before, this figure does have much more articulation than a normal DC Collectibles figure has. So let's go over that real quick. The head is still on a basic, just seems to be ball joint, no hinge or anything, so he doesn't have much up or down movement, but he can look left and right fine. Standard ball hinge joints at the shoulders. Single hinged elbows, and then swivel hinged wrists. He does have a hinge in there. You can't really see it because of the way the armor sculpted around the wrist, and that does prohibit some of the downward movement and upward movement because of the armor piece that covers his wrist. But he does have some up and down movement at the wrist, which is nice. No bicep swivel or anything like that. He has an ab crunch joint, which is nice, something you don't usually see in a DC Collectibles figure. And so he can look down nicely, and he can, even though he can't look up at the neck, he can look up at the waist section, so that's nice. He's got swivel at the waist as well. And then he's got the legs are attached, so with joints, so he's got good movement. He can do partial splits, and he's got good back and up and forward movement with the leg. He's got a double hinged knee, which is hidden by the knee pad, which is nice. And then he's got swivel hinged ankles. Doesn't really pivot, but he does turn, and the foot does move up and down. So all in all, I'm very happy with the articulation on this figure. I wish we would see this kind of articulation on all the DC collectible figures. I think they do a good job when they add the articulation. I think they do a good job with it. But unfortunately, like I said, this is the only figure in this series that has the added articulation. Black Mask and Joker have your typical standard articulation that you see with most DC collectible figures. Same with Bane. And speaking of Bane, just to give you a size comparison, as I mentioned before, Bane is a bigger size figure. Now one thing I'll note is, at least I picked these up at my local comic book shop, and they were selling these figures for around $24, which seems a little bit high for 7-inch figures, but I will note that the Bane figure, even though he's bigger, was the same price. So, and you know, prices may vary some since these are being sold at local comic book shops. So I don't know if you'll be able to find them at a little bit cheaper, a little bit more, or what have you. But at my comic book shop, all 4 figures were basically the same price, even though the Bane figure is a bit bigger than the others. So that's my review. I really like this figure. I really like the added articulation, and the detailing and paint apps are really nice, like usual with DC Collectibles. And really, when they give us that extra articulation, it really makes for a top-notch action figure. Like I said, I wish we'd kind of see this kind of articulation in all their figures. But definitely, when we do get it, it's great, and they've done a great job with this figure. And I do think it looks better than the Mattel version, just because I think it's more game accurate with the lighter grays and such. And I just don't think it looks as bulky. So as I said, these figures are hitting comic book shops now, comic and specialty shops now, and your favorite e-tailers. So if you're interested in picking it up, go look for them now. And that's my review. We'll be doing reviews of the other 3 figures in this wave in the next coming days, so keep checking back for that. Until next time, I'll check you later.